welcome to the SPRTER Podcast.
Thank you.
Let me briefly introduce you to our audience and go from there. So we have former Stanford and WNBA center Val Whiting joining us today, and she earned numerous awards while being at Stanford, inducted in the Stanford Hall of Fame, played in Italy, Brazil, and the American Basketball League before getting drafted into the WNBA. And while at the WNBA, she played for the Detroit Shock and the Minnesota Lynx. Currently, Val is focused on coaching and started her own coaching business and is inspiring young female athletes through her Instagram, TikTok, and SPRTER app outlets. So I'm excited to have you on board. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to mention the experience store Val has set up on the SPRTER app, where you can all request a wide range of experiences with Val, such as personalized Zoom call, game time review, storyline, and much more. So go and check that out. Now let's dive into some of the content. Take us back to where it all started. Where did you start playing basketball? What drove you to starting the game, loving the game, and becoming really good at the game?
Well, I started playing basketball by accident. It was in seventh grade, and I was being actually bullied a lot.
Okay.
And I thought, hey, if I became a cheerleader, maybe I could be one of the cool kids and the bullying would stop. So I tried out for cheerleading and did all the cheers and was practicing, and I didn't make it. It was 12 people on the team and one mascot, and I didn't even make the mascot. And so it was the tally time. Later that week, my math teacher asked me to try out for basketball. Hey, you're pretty tall. Do you want to come out for the team? And that's how I got started. I wasn't in any sports. I didn't play any sports. I loved to play outside, but I had no interest. Both my parents actually played basketball, but they didn't talk about basketball with me. And that's how I got started. I was pretty bad when I started. I would shoot at the wrong basket. When we switch halftime, I'd have open lefts. I'd shoot over the backboard. So I really didn't like it at first. And my dad would wake me up on Saturday mornings, like around 6 a.m. We go to the park and we practice. So, and I still didn't like it. I didn't start liking it until 10th grade when I got my first letter from a college saying they were interested in me playing for them.
Wow. Okay. That's a big progression, as in from, hey, I didn't even want to do this, to now I'm getting approached by colleges. What was that? Oftentimes we see that moment where it shifts, where it's like, okay, I now actually like this. And from there, we also see a moment that often happens in athletes, like, hey, I could really make this going pro, or in this case, go into college. What was that moment for you? And was there such a moment?
Well, I went to this basketball camp between my first year of high school and second year of high school, and their college coaches were going to be there watching you. Then they had camps. I'm not sure they do that now. There's more AAU basketball. And I was having really good success and against decent competition. And I said, you know what, maybe I can be good at this. And when I got the letter in the mail from Princeton University, that validated that I could play college basketball. Because that wasn't my goal. Like a lot of kids now, maybe in third grade, they know they want to play college, they want to be a professional athlete. I had none of that in my view. So just that exposure to some success got me more motivated.
Okay, and obviously Princeton is not just some random school. It has a household name, so I can understand why you realize, like, you know what, actually this could go much further. And then at Princeton, and in college, you graduated from college, you're like, well, I know you played abroad as well. Like, what took you to Italy? What took you to Brazil? What brought you back?
So when I graduated from Stanford, there was there was no women's basketball in the United States, and so actually I was pre-med at Stanford, and I'd gotten into a medical school in UCSF, and I accepted admissions, and I said, you know what, give me 2 years of playing overseas, and then I'll come back and go back to medical school. So that was the plan, but then basketball came in the United States, and with the ABL, and I played there for 3 years, and then the WNBA, and I never went back to medical school. So I didn't have, like, even in college, I didn't think of myself having a super long professional basketball career.
That's really interesting. And then you ended up with one of the you're being named, and you have, I think, the 6th highest number of points
at Stanford.
At Stanford, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so you are clearly up. You're part of the Hall of Fame. So even at that point, you didn't think that this was going to be a long career. So that's interesting. For, like, we see so many, as you said, there's so many like 13-year-olds are like, I'm going to go pro, I'm going to make this, and you just like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor. That's interesting.
Woman, being a woman in that time, it was just going overseas. I didn't think I could spend years abroad and love it as much as maybe playing in the United States. So that was it. I went to Stanford to get a degree, to be a doctor, and the professional side of things were secondary for me.
Yeah. Okay. And I find that fascinating. Now, obviously, the WNBA and I guess the landscape of women's basketball has changed massively over the last years. In your perspective now, as a coach, but as a former player, can you give me an overview of how you see the change?
Well, I definitely see the change in players really, and this has nothing to do with basketball, being cognizant and being aware of what their brand is, and how valuable their brand is, and especially with regards to social media. When I played, it wasn't really much social media going on. I don't think there was any, honestly. So there was no, you didn't have, what's the word I'm looking for, a presence. There was no presence as there is now. So I noticed that. I also noticed that the game has evolved a lot. I mean, the rules are even different now from when I played. The game is more, we didn't have the defensive 3 seconds when I was playing in the league.
Okay, so not just the role change, but then also the way that players approaching their personal brand and actively building it. And I guess that leads to monetizing it as well, right? Yeah,
and honestly, I wish that I took advantage of my connections when I was playing to set myself up for when I'm not playing anymore. Because a lot of these young ladies are setting up their brand now, so when they retire after 5 or 10 years, they're set up. They know the direction you want to go. People know them. They're relevant, and I think I just love the savviness of the current athletes.
No, I can certainly see that, as in a lot of these athletes are striking while it's hot, right? As in the season, and we see that now, even with the college athletes that are now in season, they're building their name, image, and likeness, and they're starting to monetize, and they're getting all these brand deals left and right, and building their platforms. It's exciting to see, and I'm super happy that these student athletes are actually now able to monetize as well, while particular female student athletes that wouldn't go pro down the road, they can still make some money. Or if they go pro, they don't make the same amount of money as some of the male sports, WNBA versus NBA. So that's really exciting to see those athletes really building their brand. But you've also transitioned in your from the on-field to your coaching business, right? You're setting up your coach, you're a mentor, you're an advisor. One of the recent posts that you shared on the SPRTER app I found really inspiring, and it was 5 recommendations for people I think you deemed it around, you titled it around the basketball queens. And the 5 recommendations were: you don't have to be perfect. A bad day is okay. Small steps toward progress, asking for help, and people will appreciate you. And I found that really helpful for not just female athletes, but any athlete, as in, hey, these are some things that you can really implement that can go a long way. Now, in terms of your advice, in terms of your coaching, do you see a lot of that? I guess that's a mindful coaching or mental health coaching almost, that is part of the coaching. How do you approach that, and where do you see this moving forward?
So I got started, I've always been a coach with regards to basketball skills, but I would work in mindset tips that kids didn't even realize I was giving them in our training sessions. But when I joined TikTok, on my account, I get a lot of comments from young ladies with regards to struggling with confidence and mistake response. And so and how do they respond to when they make a mistake? And from there, I decided to get certified as a mental game coach. And I opened the Fierce Athlete Academy, which is for female athletes, but it's all around mentoring and getting your mind, having that Mamba mentality, and being mentally tough, having stable confidence, not having your confidence waver when things go great, your confidence high. When you don't play well, your confidence is low. So getting kids to be even keeled with that. And a lot of it, the motivation was from my mistakes and the struggles I had as an athlete, and why I know I didn't have these skills, and I wish I did. It would have been I would have been a different kind of player, I believe, if I worked on my mindset as much as I worked on my physical side. So that's how I'm coaching people now, mainly female athletes, and I use TikTok and Instagram as a way to coach.
And that's great in terms of giving back and being that role model that I think a lot of athletes need. Now, did you have some role models when you were in the game that you molded your game around, or do you have some role models right now when you talk about mental health, when you look at passing on knowledge? Are there some people that you look up for, that you consult, that you follow?
Well, growing up, I didn't have any women on TV that much to look up to. I used to want to be like James Worthy. He played for the Lakers back in the day. And then basketball was only on television one time a year, and that was for the Final Four. So basically, just 3 games. The 2 semifinals and the 1 championship. And that's all I could watch. And then I would idolize people like Cheryl Miller. I think Cynthia Cooper was playing as well. So, but I only saw them once a year. So I ended up having my role models being male athletes. But now I follow, and I can't think of people's names, I follow different sports psychologists and mindset coaches. One coach I love that I follow, her name is, it's called, her first name is Bryn, is Win with Bryn, and she's really awesome. She works with NBA, WNBA, and college athletes, and she gives great mindset tips. And then I follow Dr. Cohn. He's on TikTok as well, and I've taken a course of his.
Okay.
All these people are doing what I want to really do, coach athletes, and it's for me. It's not just about money. Who doesn't want to make money? I know the pain it feels when you are on the bench and the coach looks past you and doesn't put you in, puts the next person in, and how that can rock your confidence. And I want people not to feel what I felt. I want them to be able to have the tools to combat those times when things aren't going their way.
I think that's really valuable, as in, helping those players that are not playing. Oftentimes they're overlooked by coaches, as in, what, I care for my starting 5, my starting 11, my starting 7, etc. Well, no matter the sport. And then it's like, yeah, the other's like, well, you suck it up. You're not good enough right now. You'll be okay down the road. But I think that's really exciting that those are the ones that need a lot of the support as well. So it's nice to see you giving back and supporting those. This is actually bringing us to a segment that we have. It's called Bro Advice segment, where we solicit comments and questions from our audience to ask you and asking you for advice based on submissions. So the first question, I think it relates to what you mentioned earlier. The first segment, or the first question for Pro Advice, is: my high school coach made me the captain of the basketball team this year. I'm really shy. So how can I make myself into a better leader and captain?
Well, first of all, you have to get rid of the part where a leader or a captain looks and acts a certain way. I'm an introvert, and that might be another code word for shy as well. And I think, whoa, man, I have to speak all the time. I have to be a cheerleader. No, be yourself. And first and foremost, lead by example. And don't be afraid to encourage others. That's the biggest thing, being a leader, being encouraged, being able to pick your teammates up, as well as know when to be silent. You don't have to talk the whole time because you're shy. That's okay. Maybe you're that leader who was an amazing listener. You know, when someone on your team is going through something, you can lend an ear to her, and she knows, wow, Sarah always listens, and she's not quick to speak. So think about what you do well individually. I don't even think being shy and being an introvert is a bad thing. I think this world has too many people that like to talk and not enough people who listen. You could be a leader that can listen, and as well as be able to give input and encourage.
That's awesome. I love that recommendation, because I totally agree that leadership is often associated with that loud voice. Everyone follow me. This is what we, but you're absolutely right. Is the leadership has so many different styles, and you're probably right with saying that there are too many people that like to talk and not listen. So this is awesome advice. We have a second submission. Sorry?
I'll just add to that. I mean, one thing that you should do is find yourself a mentor. I have a mentor that I pick the brain. Find someone that's older than you, that's been through what you've been through. And what my mentor always tells me, leaders are readers. Leaders are readers. So what books, and I wish I can remember which books I recommend. Right now I'm reading the 48 Laws of Power. I just started that last week, but people who are great leaders are constantly developing themselves personally. So
having that growth mindset rather than the I don't know where this is going type of fixed mindset.
Yeah,
that's great. I agree in terms of reading and developing yourself. I think that's really important on the field as well as off the field. We have a second submission for our Pro Advice, and it reads: I have been trying to gain more exposure for myself. How can I do that? And I don't know what the person means with exposure. So it could be within the team, or it could be on the social media platforms. I'm not sure what they actually meant. So I'm just passing this along right now. So it's up for interpretation.
I was going to interpret it that maybe that person wants more exposure with regards to coaches seeing them. Maybe that
could be, yeah.
And
let's go with that.
Yeah, let's go with that. I have a son who plays soccer in college, and what he would do is, first of all, he played on a traveling team, but when his traveling team would go to different tournaments, which was how he got exposure, he would write the coaches, email the coaches that he was interested in, and would say, hey, I'm going to be at this tournament. This is he put his name, his position, his GPA, his height, and his subject line, make it a really short email. And what I think is really key for exposure, you guys, is you definitely have to have a highlight film. And you'll have I think it was a 2-minute highlight film, and he put the link in the email address. So a lot of kids now are putting their highlight films on their social media accounts. I definitely urge you to get on Twitter because coaches are on Twitter. Okay, make your username something respectable, not like Big Booty 45, not that, but something respectable. Just your first and last name, and you can reach out to coaches that way as well. But like maybe make a tweet with your highlights and pin it on your account, and that's another way to have exposure, way that I didn't have when I was your age.
Yeah, that's a really good point in terms of exposure to coaches when looking at college, when looking at pro. So that makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about that type of exposure, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's really good advice in making sure to not have the big Kahoot, whatever, the best. In terms of the best. Instagram, those type of usernames and those type of handles, keeping it somewhat proper.
Right.
That's great. That makes a lot of sense. Now, when we're looking at the sport of basketball, sport of women's sport, or sport of women's basketball, and you've been saying that we didn't have that rule, the 23 seconds. We didn't have that. And we have a segment that we call Break the Rules. Ask you to make a change to the game of basketball that would make it better. And better can be anything, whether that's more exposure to the athlete, more fan engagement, anything you can think of that you're like, you know what, that would be a really cool rule change. I'd like to see that. And fans would like to see that. And players would like to see that. What is it that you think we can break the rules?
Okay, well, if there's a fan who's really obnoxious and maybe even throws something on the court, you have the opportunity to point that person out and bring the fan on the court, and then you can go through a boxing match with them.
Yes.
I think that would stop a lot of these fans from being so brave about, throwing stuff or the mean stuff they say. Oh, that's how you feel? All right, come down here. Let's go. That's my rule change. I don't know if that's going to get better, but it might sell some more tickets.
Oh, it would definitely make the game. I'm all for it, and I feel like we need an enforcer position there. As you don't want to get any of the players hurt. You want to have someone who actually boxes for the team as well.
Oh yeah, so you're thinking a team representative that's a boxer, but not the players. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. I love that idea. And it would definitely make the game and the fans probably less rowdy and more respectful as well. So I could see that. Now, over the last years, we've seen a lot of growth for women's basketball. We've seen right now even women's soccer, where there's a Kansas City are getting the women's soccer team in Kansas City. They're getting their own stadium being built for the women's team, which is awesome to see. And there's more and more money coming in. Where do you see the game going and moving over the next years, if you look in your glass bowl?
Well, I know even though we're in 2021, we have so much further to go with women receiving the respect they should get. Just from being on TikTok and reading the comments, I know it's not where it should be, and I'm sure there are trolls everywhere. But I'd like to see, for me, just for the WNBA, to be marketed even better. When the WNBA first came out, I was playing in another league, but everybody knew when the season was starting. There were commercials and they were like, "We got next," and it was Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, and Rebecca Lobo. They were all in all the commercials, and everybody knew. Now, I don't even know when games are coming on sometimes, unless I follow the WNBA, on other social media platforms, and I'm on their mailing list and stuff. But I just feel like the marketing is just not as top of mind that it is now, and I think that's the big thing that can take the league to the next level, because people do not know who plays in the WNBA on a whole. Like they may know Sue Bird and or Candace Parker, but they don't know the other players that maybe A-list players, but just aren't as recognizable. And I feel like there should be a lot more marketing money put into the league. I also think it'd be cool to have somehow WNBA and NBA doubleheaders. I don't know how that could work out because most of the WNBA players during the basketball season, they go overseas to play. So, but this year, I think it kind of overlapped with Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury were able to play back to back because the Phoenix Mercury were in the finals. But I don't even know if I'm answering your question. I think I'm rambling right now. But I just think marketing could be better. The game is getting more exciting. TV ratings went up last season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this past season, and then they were up even when during the pandemic. All the other sports went down, but women's basketball went up during the pandemic. So WNBA season. So I think it's moving in the right direction. I don't know how they're going to solve the issue with not enough people are coming to the games as regards to attendance.
Yeah, I can absolutely see the marketing side, and I love the recommendation in terms of collaboration with the NBA. I think there's a lot of potential, and we see a lot of NBA players really giving shout outs and really supporting. And it's I think it's probably one of the leagues that we could use as an example where how the male players can support and be allies to the female players and really support them in their branding and their initiatives. So I think it's awesome to see there, and I think that could still be increased down the road. But those are really good recommendations. Thank you. Now, what's next for Coach Val, for your coaching business? Where are you taking this? What are your goals, and what are your next big exciting things that are going to happen?
Well, my goals are to, expose as many young women as possible to mindset training, and somehow educate the importance of it. Don't get training when you feel you need it. Meaning, it could be preventative. My son, for example, he visualizes every day, no matter what. He's always visualizing himself playing. He's writing down his goals for each practice or for each week. And he's constantly working on his mindset. So when he gets to a situation, and he just had a situation where he hadn't played for 7 games. He was getting decent playing time coming off the bench. And then for 7 games, he didn't play. And he was constantly working on and we were having these conversations, working on his confidence and visualizing himself being successful and being in practice and attacking every possession. And then finally, yesterday he got in. I was like, why didn't you play yesterday? I was wondering why he played. The coach put him in, scored a goal.
Nice.
He was ready. He stayed ready. But I don't think he would have been ready if he took a different mindset. I haven't played 7 games. Coach is getting on my nerves, or maybe I'm just not good. I shouldn't be here. He stayed ready. He worked on his mindset. And I guess my message is don't wait until something happens in your sport. Work on it now. Work on it while things are going great. So it's just like strength training, making your mind stronger. So when you go through something, you're ready. So that's my goal. I don't want people to feel like I felt. I struggled with depression when I played. I actually took a whole season off from the WNBA because of this. And a lot of, I felt, besides the biochemical imbalances, I felt what attributed to it is that I didn't have tools to deal with failure, to deal with what happens when I make a mistake. I would hold on to mistakes for days and replay mistakes over and over in my head. My confidence was reactive instead of proactive. I would react to a bad game, and then I was the worst player in the world. And a good game, oh, okay, I'm back on top again. So these are the things that I want athletes the skills, because if you can master your mindset, you're so ahead of players athletes are not doing this, especially youth athletes are not doing this consistently.
I totally agree, and I think that, I mean, it's awesome that that your son was able to go through those 7 weeks and then score right away. So he must have definitely been doing something right, and I'm sure that your coaching was really helpful in that sense. So it's good to have the coach in the family. For those who don't have the coach in the family, that's where I am Coach Val on Instagram, on Twitter, on the SPRTER app really comes into play. So all of our listeners, our audience here, make sure to follow Val on all of those outlets, TikTok as well, I think. Yeah. And you can also look at the experience store on the SPRTER app, where she offers experiences and support for those athletes that are looking to take that next step in their career, and also make sure to take care of their mental health and their mindset alongside with their current state. So it's really important to continue working on yourself. So that's awesome information.
And this stuff doesn't only help you on the playing field. That's the cool thing. It affects your life. It helps you be a better student, a better person. So that's why I love it so much, that I gravitated more towards, first of all, I can also help more than just basketball players. When I was only teaching basketball skills, that's all I knew. But with mindset and your mental game, I can work with athletes of all sports.
That makes a lot of sense. Those are really transferable skills, not just between sports, but then also, as you said, between life situation, whether it's career in the school or down when you're in a professional setting, but then also even transitioning that into personal relationships. And I think that if you're stable and you have the confidence, I think that makes all the difference in personal relationships, whether that's with friends, family, or romantic partners. So I absolutely agree. I think that makes a lot of difference as well. So I really appreciate all of the insights that you've given us and our listeners today. And we really appreciate you being part of the SPRTER family and being on the platform and sharing all of your knowledge with the athletes, with the sporters, the supporters around, as well as obviously through your other outlets and your following. Really appreciate that. And we're excited to follow along with I am Coach Val, and be in for the ride and learn a lot more. As I said, I feel there's always something to learn, and there's all these little nuggets that you share, and I really appreciate those. They're awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak and talk about what I'm passionate about.
Thank you so much. Have an awesome day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Oh,